Okay, let's just get right into it, shall we? Today, we're unpacking a truly paradigm-shifting concept straight from the bleeding edge of theoretical physics and math. We're talking about the Adelic Langlands program. Specifically, we're going to dive deep into a framework known as Logos Field Theory, or LFT for short. Our goal for this explainer? We are literally going to try and decode the universe's ultimate source code. Right off the bat, I want you to consider this absolutely mind-bending premise from the source material. The universe is not a collection of physical objects, but a self-resolving mathematical proof. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Everything around you right now, your desk, the stars outside, your literal body, at the most fundamental level, it might not actually be made of physical stuff at all. Instead, it's pure mathematics, just working itself out in real time. To really grasp how radical of a shift this is, we kind of have to compare it to the theoretical heavyweights we're already familiar with. You know, with string theory, your fundamental unit is a one-dimensional string vibrating on a smooth manifold. Loop quantum gravity? That relies on relational loops to weave a discrete fabric of space-time. But Logos field theory? It completely throws that paradigm out the window. The fundamental unit here isn't a physical object whatsoever. It's a stroboscopic tick of time, clocking in at exactly 42.24 nanoseconds. And instead of physicists agonizing over how to handle singularities with fuzzballs or quantum bounces, LFT just handles them with a cryptographic quarantine. We aren't talking about quantum mechanics anymore, folks. We are talking about literal computing. So, to make sense of all this impossibly complex math, we're going to lean on an analogy that makes it super accessible: computer architecture. We'll be looking at 1. The universe's code, 2. The cosmic hardware, 3. The consciousness operator, 4. Rendering reality's graphics, 5. Quarantining cosmic bugs, and 6. The master equation. All right, part 1, the universe as code. Let's look at how reality is actually structured from a software perspective. So we've got the 5-layer Adelic architecture stack. Let's just trace this from the top down. Up at layer 5, we have the bug quarantine, which handles systemic anomalies. Right below that, layer 4 is the graphics engine. That's LFT itself. Layer 3 acts as the system's RAM and buffer, then layer 2 is the user input, and finally, sitting all the way at the bedrock foundation at layer 1, we have the actual hardware, the Adelic substrate. Now, let's translate these super academic mathematical layers into plain English tech terms so we can actually wrap our heads around the whole system. Layer 1, the hardware, provides the foundational computing arena. Layer 2, user input, is where consciousness and observation actually step in to perturb the system. Layer 3, the RAM, prevents calculation lag by buffering data through what are called liquid vector spaces. Then we have layer 4, the graphics engine, which takes all this abstract mathematical data and compiles it into the 3D space in 1D time that we actually experience. And finally, layer 5 is basically the cosmic antivirus software, quarantining data errors so the whole universe doesn't just crash. Moving on to part 2, the cosmic hardware. Let's actually examine the motherboard of the universe. Okay, notice that continuous real line running right through the center, but then branching off of it everywhere are these totally disconnected fractal arithmetic sets known as p-adic completions. This whole structure is the Adelic substrate. It's this incredibly vast fractal landscape of numbers, and it brilliantly illustrates that the foundational arena of our universe is not the smooth, continuous spacetime that Einstein envisioned. Actually, it's a discrete arithmetic background. And within this substrate, reality basically operates as a moduli stack, meaning the absolute fundamental unit of observation isn't a tiny point in space, it's an Adelic voxel. Honestly, you can think of it exactly like a 3D pixel on your computer monitor. But why does the universe do this? Well, smooth coordinate geometry allows for infinities, and in computing, infinities crash the system. Physicists call those crashes singularities. So, by using these discrete voxels, the universe is hard-coding a limit to prevent subplanckian singularity crashes. Basically, the resolution of reality has a hard bottom floor. Which brings us to part 3, the consciousness operator. If that's the hardware, how do we actually interact with it? Take a look at the equation here. The operator, denoted by that script O, consists of baseline physics plus a highly specific perturbation. What's so wild here is how it frames intent as an active mathematical operator on the Riemann zeta critical line. Put simply, your conscious intent is, quite literally, the mouse click of the universe. Which naturally poses a pretty massive rhetorical question. How does human observation actually alter the math of the universe? Well, the source material suggests our observation isn't just passive. We aren't sitting in a theater just watching a movie play out. Instead, our localized wave packets are actively pinning down frequencies and reducing mathematical friction. We are constantly feeding input variables right back into the global equations. And this interaction, it's not happening smoothly. It's happening at a highly specific clock rate. Get this. The universe has a master clock frequency of approximately 23.6742 megahertz. That number dictates the actual refresh rate of reality. So your consciousness interacts with the physical world through those stroboscopic ticks we mentioned earlier, happening every 42.24 nanoseconds. The universe is literally flashing in and out of existence, rendering itself frame by frame millions of times a single second. Just mind-blowing. All right, part 4, rendering reality's graphics. Let's look at how the universe visually renders itself so we can experience it. If you follow the math here, category-theoretic data is being pushed forward into geometric curvature. Basically, this is the engine turning pure, invisible mathematical data into the physical, tangible world you can actually touch and see. The crucial point here is that Logos field theory is acting as a universal graphics engine. And it does this through a series of step-downs called cascade levels, which are derived from trace formulas. So cascade level 1 handles core topological multiplicity, which is really just a fancy way of saying it generates physical particles. Cascade level 2 deals with Maxwell field strength tensors, which translates to the light and charge we see. And then cascade level 3 expands into Riemann curvature invariance, which we physically experience as gravity. It's just amazing how abstract data systematically steps down to generate the fundamental physical forces we feel every single day. Okay, part 5. Quarantining cosmic bugs, because as anyone with a computer knows, sometimes the code glitches. So what happens when the universe's code hits an error? Well, up at layer 5, we might encounter a cohomological tear in the data, an error. But notice how unresolvable data errors, the things that classical physicists would call black holes, are actually treated as Schulze diamonds by this system. To prevent a crash, the universe isolates the corrupted 3D data, flattens it all the way down into a two-dimensional p-adic bit grid, and locks it away in a cryptographic quarantine. And that leads us to a truly mind-blowing realization. In traditional physics, a solar mass black hole is this terrifying, infinitely dense tear in the fabric of space-time, right? But in Logos field theory, a solar mass black hole is essentially just a tiny compressed zip file containing about 135 kilobytes of corrupted arithmetic data. That's it. And Hawking radiation? That's just the universe's standard garbage collection routine, slowly deleting those corrupted bits frame by frame over billions of years. Crazy, right? Finally, part 6, the master equation. Let's bring all these incredible layers together into the ultimate underlying code. And here it is. The master equation. Now, I know the calculus and topology here look incredibly dense, but don't get intimidated. Just focus on the architecture it represents. The first part is Logos field theory. That's the graphics engine. The middle section is spectral projection, the phase noise optimization coming from consciousness. The end is J theory, the homological error buffer. But honestly, the absolute most beautiful part is that circle right at the bottom, the recovery loop. This recovery loop acts as an infinite reboot cycle, firing off at that 23 megahertz master clock speed. It takes the mathematical state, puts it through liquefaction to melt it down, applies Heck filtration to sort out the usable data, uses a joint damping to cool the processing heat, and then finally executes a semi-classical boot to render the very next frame of reality. This loop is exactly how the universe is constantly healing itself, rendering the next frame of our existence without ever blue screening. So, we've seen the hardware, the graphics engine, and the bug quarantine. We've seen that reality is an incredibly robust, self-healing computational architecture. So I'm going to leave you with this one provocative thought. If the universe is a self-resolving mathematical proof, and conscious intent is a mathematical operator acting as the direct input, what exactly is your role in the simulation? Really think carefully about where you place your intent today. And as always, keep questioning the code of reality.